I have always been someone who easily adapts to routine. Working as an accountant in a large firm provided me with structure and stability, two things I deeply valued. My mornings were filled with reports, meetings, and balance checks, which took up most of my time. Evenings and weekends I spent at home with my wife, Lisa. We had been married for 10 years, and although we didn't have children, we often said that our two Labradors, Max and Leah, were our family. Life was busy but predictable, the way I liked it. I met Lisa in college. She was studying interior design, and I was studying finance. We were introduced by mutual friends at a party, and we had been inseparable ever since. Our relationship developed quickly. A year later, we moved in together, and 2 years after that, we got married. Both of us were ambitious, focused on career growth, and we always supported each other in our professional pursuits. Lisa was creative and energetic, while I preferred order and stability. We complemented each other, and our differences only strengthened our bond. We dreamed of traveling, building our dream home, and maybe, one day, having children. Every summer, Lisa would take a short break to attend various design exhibitions and workshops. It was her way of finding inspiration and bringing new ideas into her projects. This year, she decided to attend a prestigious international interior design seminar in Paris. We were both looking forward to the trip. For her, it was a chance to learn from the best, and for me, it was an opportunity to support her dreams and perhaps enjoy some time alone, focusing on my hobbies and friends. Lisa left for a week, and I stayed home, busy with my own things and enjoying the temporary freedom. I knew how important these trips were to her, and I always supported her ambitions. On the first day of her absence, I immersed myself in work, trying not to dwell on how much I missed her. In the evenings, I watched movies I had been wanting to see and played video games with friends. Lisa often called me, sharing her impressions of the seminar, telling me about new acquaintances and inspiring lectures. I was happy for her and encouraged her enthusiasm. On the last evening before her return, she sent me a message saying she was meeting an old friend who lived in Paris, and they were going to spend the evening together. The next day, I woke up with a strange feeling of anxiety. Lisa was supposed to return in the morning, but she wasn't home. I tried calling her, but her phone was off. My sense of unease grew, so I sent her a message. A few hours later, she finally replied, apologizing for the delay and saying her flight had been rescheduled to a later time. I tried to calm myself, but something inside me told me it wasn't just the flight. That evening, I decided to check her recent social media updates. There were photos from the seminar, plenty of pictures from lectures and parties, but one photo caught my attention. Lisa was standing next to a man I didn't know. They looked very close, their smiles too warm. A wave of jealousy and suspicion swept over me. I decided to check her email, something I had never done before, and there I found a conversation that broke my heart. Lisa was writing to that man, expressing her feelings and saying how much she had enjoyed spending the past few days with him. She mentioned she had never felt such attraction and freedom. My first reaction was shock. I couldn't believe that my wife, with whom I had spent so many years, could do this. Then came anger. I wanted to call her and demand an explanation, but I knew that in my current state, the conversation wouldn't lead to anything good. I decided to take a pause and think about my next steps. I started gathering evidence. I saved the emails, took screenshots of her photos and messages. I needed to calm down and figure out what to do next. Inside me, love and betrayal were battling. I knew that a difficult conversation lay ahead, one that would change our lives forever. I chose not to confront her over the phone. Instead, I texted Lisa, saying we needed to have a serious talk when she returned. I wanted to see her reaction, her attempts to explain herself. That night, I couldn't sleep, thinking about what had happened and how we had come to this point. All our shared plans and dreams now seemed distant and unattainable. When Lisa returned the next day, I met her with a cold calmness. We sat down at the table, and I showed her the screenshots of her correspondence. Her face went pale, and she began to justify herself, saying it was a mistake, that she was confused, and that it didn't mean anything. But to me, it meant everything. I told her that we needed time to think things through and suggested she stay with her friend for a while. Lisa agreed, understanding that I wasn't ready to accept her explanations right away. Alone in our house, I began to reflect on our past, trying to find moments that might have hinted at this outcome. I had always trusted Lisa, and that trust was the foundation of our relationship. Now I felt betrayed and empty. I knew I had to move forward, but it seemed incredibly difficult. Questions swirled in my mind. Why did this happen to us? What could I have done differently? And most importantly, how do I move on from here? Over the next week, I began preparing for the legal steps I needed to take. The first thing I did was change the passwords on all our shared accounts and blocked Lisa's access to our financial resources. Then, I contacted a lawyer for a consultation about the upcoming divorce. We discussed all aspects of property division and my rights in this situation. My lawyer advised me to gather as much evidence of the affair as possible to use in court. Lisa stayed with her friend, and although she tried to contact me several times, I avoided any conversations. I knew I needed time to calm down and collect my thoughts. At the end of the week, I felt ready to talk to Lisa face to face. I called her and suggested we meet at our house. She agreed. On the day of the meeting, I came home early to prepare for the conversation. Inside, I was overwhelmed by conflicting emotions: anger, pain, love, and disappointment. Lisa arrived at the agreed time. She looked exhausted and nervous. We sat down at the kitchen table, and I began the conversation. Lisa, I've thought a lot about what happened. I'm hurt and upset, but I want to understand why you did this, I started. She lowered her head and quietly said, I don't know, Kostya. It all started so unexpectedly. At the seminar, I met Alexei, and he seemed so interesting and attentive. I felt free around him. But it was a mistake. I realize that now. Why didn't you talk to me? Why didn't you tell me something was missing in our relationship? I asked, trying to stay calm. I was afraid that you wouldn't understand or would reject me. It seemed like you were too busy with your work to notice my problems, Lisa replied, tears streaming down her cheeks. I sighed. We could have talked about it, tried to find a solution, but now everything is different. I don't know if I can trust you again. Lisa remained silent, knowing that her words could no longer change much. I continued, I'm going to file for divorce. We both need time and space to figure out ourselves and our feelings. She nodded, agreeing with my decision. I understand, and I'll accept whatever decision you make. Just know that I truly regret what happened. We discussed the practical details, how we would divide the property, what to do with the house, and our dogs. Lisa agreed to my terms, and we decided she would stay with her friend until she found a new place to live. After Lisa left, I felt both relieved and empty. Our home, once filled with laughter and love, now felt cold and vacant. I realized I needed to make some changes to avoid sinking into depression. I started with small things: rearranging the furniture, updating the decor in the living room, and adding new fish to the aquarium. It helped distract me and slightly improve my mood. I also began taking Max and Leah for longer walks, spending more time outdoors and reflecting on the future. I opened up to my friends and family, telling them what had happened. Their support was invaluable. My best friend, Andrei, called me every evening, inviting me for walks or to parties, so I wouldn't feel lonely. My sister, Katya, offered to let me stay with her over the weekends to change the scenery. One evening, I was sitting in Andrei's kitchen, and we were talking about my future plans. You need to find something new to focus on, he said, pouring us glasses of wine. Maybe take a vacation, go somewhere. Relax, see new places. The idea appealed to me. I decided that a trip to the seaside might help me clear my mind and sort through my feelings. I took 2 weeks off from work and booked a trip to a small coastal town, where I hoped to find peace and regain my inner balance. The sea welcomed me with warm winds and the sound of the waves. I stayed at a cozy hotel on the shore and spent my days walking along the beach, reflecting on my life. These days helped me realize that life goes on despite all the pain and difficulties. I started writing a journal where I shared my thoughts and emotions. It became a form of therapy for me. One evening, I met a young woman named Anya at a cafe. She was also going through a tough time in her life. We struck up a conversation and found we had a lot in common. Our talks helped me better understand myself and my feelings. After returning from the trip, I felt renewed. The sea, the sun, and the time spent reflecting helped me realize that life goes on, and I could still be happy. The time spent with Anya also played a significant role in my recovery. We exchanged contact information and decided to stay in touch despite the distance. I decided I needed to find new hobbies to fill the void in my life. I signed up for cooking classes, something I had always wanted to do beyond simple dishes. Cooking became not only a way to distract myself, but also a new form of self-expression. When I returned to work, my colleagues noticed that I had changed. I was more confident and energetic. Work began to bring me joy again, and I threw myself into new projects. My coworkers supported me and even invited me to a few events, so I wouldn't feel alone. At one of those events, I met Olga, a colleague from a neighboring department. She had also recently gone through a divorce, and we quickly found common ground. Our conversations shifted from work topics to personal ones, and soon we started spending more time together. Over time, my relationship with Olga deepened. We supported each other, shared our feelings, and gradually grew closer. One evening, while we were sitting in a cafe, Olga confessed that she felt something more than just friendship for me. "Kostya, I know we've both been through a lot, but I feel like I'm ready for a new relationship. Are you?" she asked, looking me in the eyes. I took her hand and replied, "Olga, you've become very important to me. I also want to try building something new with you." We decided to give our relationship a chance and started dating. It wasn't easy, considering our shared experiences, but we were willing to work through it. One evening, I received an unexpected message from Lisa. She wanted to meet and talk. I thought long and hard about whether I should agree, but in the end, I decided it might help bring closure to our relationship. We met in the park where we used to walk often. Lisa looked lost and nervous. We sat down on a bench, and she started to speak. "Kostya, I know I have no right to ask for your forgiveness, but I want to say that I deeply regret what I did. I made a mistake and lost you. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I want you to know that." I sighed and looked at her. "Lisa, I forgave you a long time ago, but we can't get our marriage back. We both need to move on." She nodded, her face showing both sadness and relief. "Thank you, Kostya. I hope you find your happiness." We said our goodbyes, and I felt like I had finally closed that chapter of my life. My relationship with Olga continued to grow. We spent more time together, planning trips and discussing our dreams and goals. She supported me in everything, and I felt like I could trust and love again. One evening, while we were at home watching a movie, Olga turned to me and said, "Kostya, I think I'm ready to take the next step. Let's try living together." I smiled and replied, "I've been thinking about that too. Let's do it." We began planning the move, discussing how we would set up our shared space. It was a new chapter in our lives, and I felt that everything was happening just as it should. Life doesn't always go as planned, and sometimes we face challenges that seem insurmountable. But it's important not to lose faith in yourself and in the fact that new opportunities and happiness lie ahead. My experience taught me to appreciate every moment and be open to change. A few years have passed, and I can confidently say that I've found my happiness. My relationship with Olga has grown stronger with each passing day, and we've built our life together on trust and support. Lisa has also found her own path in life. We occasionally keep in touch and maintain a friendly relationship. I'm glad that she was able to deal with the consequences of her mistakes and move on.